We're going to have the chance to be on the first train that heads to the brand new Tacoma station on the new rail system, so it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to jump on that at 6 a.m. and we'll let you know how it goes, Jake and Joyce.
Pretty exciting for a lot of folks who want to ride the train. King 5's Alex Rozier live now with details on what's new. Alex, they told us you were just about to leave the station. Are you off?
We're about ready to go. We haven't left quite yet, but we're going to any second. We're on the brand new 6 a.m. Amtrak ride heading from Seattle to Portland. And you said you're a commuter down to Centralia, so this is a nice option for you.
Yes, it certainly is. It gives me more time to get my job done in Centralia and continue on.
Perfect. Well, Rudy, before I fall over, I'm about to send it back to Jake and Joyce as we pull into Tacoma here, guys.
Pulling into the station. Very nice. That's going to be great for a lot of people. I've never actually taken an Amtrak train before, but I hear it's awesome.
Great way to travel. You're hearing something about a train derailment?
I'm not only hearing a train derailment, I am seeing a WashDOT tweeted photo. They have taken down the DOT camera, and I'll give you all the information I have right now related to this picture that we're getting. That it's a train accident, that we have all southbound lanes blocked in DuPont on I-5 southbound at Mounts Road. We don't know if there are any injuries. We don't know if there are any casualties. I'm seeing reports that this is being treated as a mass casualty event with multiple emergency responders heading to the scene as we speak.
Well, we've had Alex Rozier board this Amtrak train, not this one, but he was on this train earlier
he was on an Amtrak
this morning talking about the expanded line from Pierce County to Oregon.
Yeah, right. So just, we talked to Alex, by the way. He is okay.
Jake and Joyce, I'm honestly kind of shaken right now because we were on this exact train. I just confirmed with Sound Transit that it was Amtrak 501 that derailed, and that is the train that took off from Seattle this morning at 6 a.m. for Portland. This is the very first day that Amtrak has rolled out their new early service. We got off in Tacoma, and about 15 minutes later, that same train derailed. So many of the people that we were speaking with all morning long are likely on this train. So it's hard to even process what is unfolding here when you look at these images.
We're tracking all this right now. Rebecca, our producer, and I have been just following basically what's going on Twitter. This is from Chris at Tacoma Transit. Train hit a truck, apparently. I am fine, but the train is destroyed. We have not confirmed that yet, and we are working to confirm all these details. But here's another shot from Chris. Train is derailed. Emergency crews are on the scene. Massive damage. He says people are hurt.
One emergency vehicle after another, and actually looks like we're seeing ambulances leaving the scene heading northbound now. I've just seen two, and it looks like I'm seeing more coming this way.
Can you tell us about some of the folks on board?
Well, yeah, and I want to interject quick, Joyce. We just saw 4 ambulances heading northbound I-5. 4 ambulances with their lights flashing, headed in the direction of the Tacoma city limits. So, yeah, I mean, these are the people we talked to this morning. These are the people that were on board this train with us. We were there. I mean, these people were excited. This wonderful man who was sitting next to us, he talked to us at 7 a.m. on board this train. We were live on this same broadcast. I mean, he had to have been on board when this happened. I mean, it's just crazy to comprehend that the people that we were sitting with, we were in the cafeteria. We were talking to the wonderful cafeteria staff that they have on board that train service this morning, and they were on board. I mean, these are people of all ages. There were young people who had their big bags packed, and obviously it's the week of Christmas here.
We're actually tracking this train as it left the Seattle area, traveling southbound, and we're actually hitting these pings, or how fast the train was going during certain parts of the route. You can see as it was passing through Auburn, 44 miles per hour. As it was going through Puyallup, about 40 miles per hour. As it left Tacoma, it really started to pick up speed. You can see, at least from the Amtrak website, as they rounded Tacoma, up to 80 miles per hour. And just before it got to DuPont, just before this train derailed, the latest report of 81 miles per hour. That was at 7:41.
Injuries and casualties have been reported. Injuries and casualties, Jake. Numbers are to come.
Trooper Brooke Bova just tweeted this picture out so that we could get a new view of the impact of this crash.
Our photographer Jim Scott also just tweeted he was with Alex Rozier this morning when they were live on the
10 minutes
train.
before this happened.
Right, that's what he said, 10 minutes before this happened. We've been hearing from a lot of you on the ground. We have Dan on the phone now. Dan, it sounds like you were there to try to help people on the ground. What did you see?
Yeah, so we were on I-5 South, and I saw the train go by Fort Lewis on the right-hand side. I noticed that it was going pretty fast, and I've never seen trains on that. They don't frequent that track super often, and so when we got to the stop traffic, we were about 20 cars back from the train bridge, and nobody really knew what was going on. And then I saw a train that looked like it was literally driving down the embankment, and I was like, oh my gosh, the train just went off the tracks. Like, that major, and I had just seen how fast it was going, so I knew that it was probably pretty serious. So we pulled off the exit and were able to get down onto the tracks. Nobody was there helping at that point, and so Alicia Hoverson and I climbed in the trains. There's about 8 trains. 3 of them stayed on the tracks. I think there's probably about 10 trains. Probably 8 of them came off the tracks. 3 of them are still on. Many of them are upside down. Some of them hit cars on I-5 South. There's a semi involved, and I think at least 3 pedestrian vehicles. So we went through the trains one at a time, made sure people were stable. If they could move, we got them out of the train. Some of them we couldn't because there was no ladders yet, or first responders for about 12 minutes. Some of them couldn't move. They had back or neck injuries, so we assigned people to stay there with them and keep them calm. And then we worked our way down to the more serious injuries where people were pinned underneath the trains that had flipped upside down. And unfortunately, there were some deceased.
When we got to the scene, it was obvious that there were some fatalities and there were a lot of injuries, and some people were able to get off the train. Multiple cars and trucks were struck by train cars that left the train tracks and went down onto the road. The people that were in all the vehicles, even though when you see the pictures, it's pretty horrific. At this point, nobody in any of the vehicles is a fatal. The fatals are all contained to the train.
We just arrived. They're having us move down, folks. So we are going to try and walk and talk as best we can. We are on the move, but right now I can tell you that we are overlooking the scene where this train derailment took place, and I have with me now one person who lives nearby. Laura, you lived in the area. Tell me, what did you hear this morning when this all took place?
Well, I just woke up and heard a bunch of sirens and noise, and it was very, very scary. I'm so glad I was off work today, but just looking at this whole mess just right around Christmas just breaks my heart.
Jim, if I can just have them show this. I have this lanyard over my head right now. I'm gonna try and show you this right here. This is what every passenger received when they got on the train this morning. It says December 18, 2017, the Amtrak Cascades rollout. I mean, there was every type of person on board this train this morning. You had the rail enthusiasts who wanted to be a part of history. You had the work commuters who were trying to get to the office. You had the young people who were potentially going home after maybe a college semester. And now this. I mean, we're responding to what you heard from Pierce County Sheriff as a mass casualty situation. This train has derailed. There's multiple emergency vehicles spread throughout Interstate 5, the busiest roadway in this region. And we have a very big problem on our hands. You know, photojournalist Jim Scott, who's shooting this video, is also with me. He was also on board this train, and I want to bring him as he's shooting this live picture for you. But Jim, tell us about your experience riding this morning and kind of what it was like for you.
Well, we definitely didn't expect anything like this to occur after a very relaxing, peaceful morning that we had on the Amtrak train. And then when we finally got to the scene, just seeing these the cars hanging off there, knowing that we were actually in car 3 when we were on it. So the car that we were on, I don't know if it's upside down on the other side or if it's one of the ones dangling. I've been trying to see the numbers. I can't quite make them out. But yeah, definitely got weak in the knees as soon as I saw this, knowing what could have happened if we had been on 10 minutes longer.
Glenn is our transportation expert, also knows so much about trains. Glenn, when you see this, what is your first takeaway?
Well, I think the first takeaway here, and I'm going to go to sort of the National Transportation Safety Board model, which they're going to use, because I have no doubt that there is a GO team coming from Washington, D.C. being assembled and will be on their way out here shortly. Remember, this only happened, 2 hours ago? So the NTSB procedure is basically the process of elimination, where it's a railroad accident, where it's a plane crash, or anything else. So basically, they put everything on the table. So speed is clearly going to be one thing they're going to look at. And the dynamics of the train and the physics are going to become studied fairly extensively here, if not very extensively going forward. So that's sort of the basics that pop into my mind as we start to look at this scene already this morning.
Glenn, we often hear, especially when it comes to speed, regardless of the speed of a train, of safety devices that automatically engage as trains get close to these kinds of curves that force a train to slow down if speed is a factor coming around these types of curves. Is that something that Amtrak has on the tracks here?
And you know, and that is an excellent point, because this what's called positive train control here, I don't believe has been fully implemented in this part of the country yet.
So there were a few what looked to be similar to metro type buses taking people who need to evacuate from this big scene right here. But the reason I relocated this live shot is to show you this track. This is the track right before the place where the train derailed. And we've been speaking all morning about how they added 14 miles of new upgraded track. I just spoke with photojournalist Tom Tedford, who covers the South Sound, and you can tell just by the look that this track appears to be very new and redone. According to Tom, he said this portion was just redone, and we're trying to confirm if this is the portion where new meets old, and perhaps that's the case. So what we don't know is if the area where the train derailed is a place where they just opened new track this morning.
Some numbers on the patients. 77 patients transported to hospitals in Pierce and Thurston counties. 4 are considered level red patients with the most severe injuries. In other words, critical. Patient transportation coordinated from the command center at St. Joseph. Rooms are set up for families, and we've been scrolling that hotline on our screen. If you have concerns about your family members on this train, you're asked to call 800-523-9101. A couple of things to point out here as we're zoomed in on the long lens. That's essentially a speed limit sign for trains. T indicating the, as Robert just put it, the
P for passenger.
Calgo train. So T30 indicates that the train you were just looking at was not supposed to be traveling more than 30 miles per hour on this particular curve. At last check, according to Amtrak's website, we did note that the last traveling speed was 81 miles per hour, which, as the engineer just indicated, is pretty normal for that stretch.
Yeah.
Got some brand new aerials here above you. These are live pictures from helicopter above you, and now new word from the Associated Press. I think I can go with this, guys. The Associated Press reporting at least 6 killed in this crash. So we now have at least 6 dead confirmed in this just horrible Amtrak train derailment. And as we get these first pictures here from above, Joyce, it's more clear to me just how violent of a crash this may have been.
14 patients at Good Samaritan Hospital, 5 at Allen Moore, 3 here at Tacoma General. And these are all from the train derailment. The hospital owners are saying that all the hospitals are open and fully operation, accepting patients in the emergency room and handling the pre-scheduled appointments and treatments that were in the works before the train derailment.
We just heard the State Patrol say that in some of those unsecured cars, they haven't been able to get in to thoroughly search those. Right. Those are really heavy cars perching off this overpass. Right. That's going to be quite a job just to secure them, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the question, is anybody still in there?
Good afternoon. So we just got some new information from the public information officer from the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. And unfortunately, the first thing out of his mouth was the number of fatalities, the death toll is incorrect. And that is because we know that at least 2 cars are too unsafe to get to. And frankly, the words that he used, he said, "We know that the people inside those cars are not alive."